more.
Welcome back to Co-work Radio here on KZSB 1290 AM. I'm Catherine Raymock.
And I'm Jane Walker-Wood.
And we're with James Rogers. He is the CEO of Apeel Sciences, a team of award-winning scientists and engineers who developed a plant-derived product to basically double the lifespan of fresh fruit and vegetables. We've been talking with him about this. He came to him in kind of an aha moment as he was driving along and listening to how many people were starving in the world and looking out at these farms and thinking, we got to come up with a better way. And he did. And the technology, I understand the concept of it, but I can't say that I know too much about polymer science. But it has to do with molecules and the density of molecules, or tell me a little bit about this.
That's a good way to put it. The way that I think about what we're doing is we are trying to catalyze a shift in agriculture, moving from what I call chemicals to microstructures. And I know that sounds a little abstract, but the tools that we use today are generally they have some sort of chemical action to them. So they'll react with something, they will interfere with something. They'll act on a hormone receptor in a plant or something. And those have been effective and helpful to us. But the challenge is when you use those things, they're generally indiscriminate. They prevent the stuff you don't want, but they also prevent some stuff that you do want. And that leads to challenges that we normally find out down the road. And so what we're doing is rather than using something that is chemically reactive or going to just act generally, what we do is by precisely finding combinations of inert molecules, things that don't have any chemical action in and of themselves. And by mixing them in very particular ratios, finding this balance, when they dry, they actually assemble into structures. And it's those structures that give us the performance, not the molecules themselves.
Oh. That's scientific.
So
I want to ask, because you're about to double the size of your company from 85 and you're adding another 75. Yep. How are the management strains? Because you started off as a scientist with a big idea, and now you've really got a lot of management, or do you delegate really well?
I hope that I delegate well. It's interesting. The way I can best describe this is, the best reward or the reward for solving the current set of challenges is you get a new puzzle and a new set of challenges. And the type of management structure that we had when we were 2 people is much different than when we were 12, than when we were 20, than when we were 50, now when we're 85. And it just evolves. And, I think that, what we're building is really special for a lot of reasons, but one of the things I'm most proud of is the culture that we've built within the company and the level of exposure that everyone within the team has to all the different aspects of what are happening. Our finance team hears from our science team on a weekly basis, and vice versa. And so we're trying to open up the lines of communication laterally so much that we can minimize the total hierarchy that we need to build within the organization.
And do you want to stay in Santa Barbara full time even when you're 10,000 employees?
Absolutely. I mean, we would love for Santa Barbara to be our home well into the future. We think that having UC Santa Barbara here is an incredible resource to us. Both from a human capital perspective and from a physical equipment perspective. UCSB has been recognized in recent years as the top material science program in the world. I heard recently that there are 5 graduate programs in engineering, all ranked top 7 nationally.
Their electrical one, he was in here, Dr. Mishra.
That's right.
Yeah, Umesh.
Yeah. How difficult was it, and what was the process of having convincing potential clients that your product worked? And you came in, and you're fairly young, and I have this idea, and this is what it's going to do. And did you actually show them, and what did you have, and how long did it take?
Yeah, I think that this is just probably general phenomena as well when you're introducing, it's like category creation. We're not like replacing something. We're not going, okay, instead of using this, use this. We're coming in and saying, we have a new tool that allows you to turn different knobs. And so what you're competing against is not an existing technology. You're competing against the status quo. And when you're competing against the status quo, you're not just talking about replacing one thing. You're talking about changing a system. And so what's most important, or what we found to be most important in that process, is if you look at kind of the adoption curve, right, the innovation adoption curve, you've got the visionaries and the early adopters kind of in the front end of that Gaussian distribution. You got to find those people, because those are generally the people that are going to be willing to engage in that thought exercise of, if I do have this new tool, how could I change the status quo to bring about new benefits?
Now, getting investors, that's a challenge for everyone. What can you advise young entrepreneurs on? How to do that?
My best advice there would be to talk to another entrepreneur early.
That's why we
and
have
more
you
often.
on the air right now.
Yeah, no, really. I mean, you think about it. Investors are probably going to do 100 deals in their life. You as an entrepreneur may do a dozen. If you're lucky. So, getting that information, that back channel from other folks who have gone through the process, I think is invaluable.
So if you had like one tip, would it be working on the business plan or working on the pitch?
My tip would be to go download the Venture Hacks Bible. There's a document.
Never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's called Venture Hacks Bible. If you want to learn enough to become dangerous very quickly, read that thing.
Okay.
It's a PDF. I think they even give it away for free.
I'm writing that down right now. Now, you are sort of unlike other entrepreneurs that we've had here in the studio. I was asking you off the air. Were you always entrepreneurial? And you said, well, actually, no, this was my first idea outside working on the paint idea. And the first thing you did, you're completely successful out of the gate.
It's like 6 years in the making, right?
But still, and this is really what you want to do. It's not like you want to drop this and then go create something else.
No, for me, this is it. I think a lot of scientists feel similarly. They go to school ideally to learn something, just to push the frontier of human knowledge out just a little bit so that you can maybe contribute something. And so, for me, it was always kind of the pursuit of knowledge, and maybe if I stick with this and work hard enough, we can learn something that might help unlock value for people on the planet. And so this is just really an incredible opportunity to do that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Can the product be used, because I was thinking about, of course, full-grown fruit, vegetables, but how about in the crops as things are growing? Is this product, is that something that you're providing now or working on?
Really exciting opportunity there. I think that long-term this is probably what will define the success of our company, is some of the in-field applications. Just real quickly, if you think about the size of an insect and why we don't have huge insects walking around, maybe you haven't thought about this.
I haven't, but
yes,
tell me.
I actually have.
Okay. So the reason insects don't get very large is that they don't have a vasculature system that distributes oxygen throughout their body effectively. So they're limited by how far the oxygen can diffuse into their bodies from the outside, and that keeps them relatively small. So if you look back, earlier periods of time when oxygen concentrations in the atmosphere were higher, you had really big bugs. So we're fortunate we don't have that now for some people. Trees, on the other hand, are the largest things on the planet. And the reason they're able to become so large is they actually have vasculature. They have these systems, basically these tiny little tubes that help move stuff around inside the system. And they're able to move stuff around. Effectively, the heartbeat of a plant is the rate that it's evaporating moisture out of its leaves. And when that happens, you evaporate moisture out of the leaves, you create this science word, negative capillary pressure up from the soil, and you start pulling moisture out of the soil, and it helps move stuff around within the system. And so these trees can get really huge. So if you think about the heartbeat of the plant being the rate that it's losing moisture, and one of the things that our product being able to control is the rate that things are losing or moisture leaving the system, applying our products to growing plants allows us to effectively change or modify the rate.
So are you going to create apples the size of basketballs?
No, absolutely not. As a company, we really actually would hope to support if a grower were trying to breed a new variety. Generally what happens is, and the reason we have such a limited kind of, it feels like we've got a lot of options, but really you go to the store, there's one kind of avocado. It's not like there's 14 different kinds of avocado. The reason for that is when we're breeding new types of fruits and vegetables, the number one constraint is you breed for transportability. You're not breeding for flavor or
I did
quality
not know
nutrition.
that.
You're breeding for transportability. And so because we're just doing crossbreeding, and you just every time you do crossbreeding, cross-pollination, you're just reshuffling the deck and hoping something gets better. The probability of getting something that lasts long enough and tastes good and looks good, every time you add an "and" to this, the probability of finding that drops dramatically. And so what we do with our products is we find growers who are doing their own crossbreeding for stuff like flavor and quality, but don't have the shelf life, and then we use our product to solve the shelf life constraint so that we can bring more biodiversity to the shelf.
Now, are you at the end of the day able to shut it off and just have a social life and not think about work?
You know, I end up talking about this a lot, but it's not a chore. I mean, it's really, fascinating. I feel so fortunate that my interests align.
When you go to sleep and you dream, do you dream about this?
Sadly enough, no, I do. I wake up thinking about this. I work on it all day. I go to sleep thinking about it. I sometimes dream about it, and I wake up and do it again.
Your passion shows. So, how close are you to your original aha insight moment, where you really wanted to help out third world countries? Is that starting to happen as well? Because most of the work that I'm hearing you're doing is here in the United States. But are you hoping that that's going to start shifting as well?
It's happening as we speak,
it
actually.
Is.
Yeah, we just had a team in Nigeria for the last 2 weeks running a large-scale field demonstration on cassava root. And we actually have employees in Kenya that have optimized formulations specifically for mangoes. So we're pending regulatory approvals in these regions, but that's the part that gets me most excited, because all we're trying to do is not aid. Right? These growers in these regions of the world already have something that's valuable. They already are producing food, really valuable, delicious food. Their problem is that their governments have generally not provided the infrastructure that they need in order to get the food
transport it
from where it's produced to where someone's going to buy it. And with our product, being able to distribute these lightweight things that look like sugar packets that people can boil water right on their farm, let it cool, dip their mangoes.
I love that you said it's not aid. I mean, aid and charity is great, but this is really empowering those people.
My opinion, and I think many of the people at our company believe that for a solution to be sustainable, it needs to be an economic solution, so you don't have to hope that people do the right thing. They're incentivized economically to do that. And, I really firmly believe that people don't want to be lifted out of poverty. They want to lift themselves out of poverty, and we just need to provide the technologies for people to be able to do that.
I love that. Hey, if people are interested, maybe even in your company and openings that you have right now, they can go to the website.
Yeah, check it out. It's apeel.com/jobs. That'll take you right there. I think there's 20 open postings right now.
Or they're also non-technical?
We're hiring marketing and business development. Some project leads, lots of technical positions as well. So,
and it's Apeel, APEEL.
Yep, apeel.com/jobs will take you to all the open postings, but I think there's 20 open right now, but there's going to be another 55 over the course of the next several months. So
hey, James, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful.
Passion for what you do and just the insight that you've had, and you are changing the world.
Yeah, that is incredible. And right here in Santa Barbara.
I know,
really
love
amazing.
it. James, thank you. You are listening to Cowork Radio here on KZSB 1290 AM. We'll be back in just a minute with various events.